Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Flying high like the birds and the bees and fill the sky with the songs and the
Hey guys, welcome to my second ever YouTube video. I literally am still uploading the first video because I have no idea how to edit. Just figured out how to upload it, and we still have like an hour and 18 minutes left, and I've been trying to do this since yesterday, so bear with me. In other words, I have no idea if anyone has subscribed yet or if they ever will. But if you happen to subscribe in my last video, I'll put your name right here. On top of that, I'd also like to thank everyone who left a comment. You guys are actually the sweetest people ever, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. In today's video, we are going to be doing some super easy mask making because you know we are living in a pandemic, unfortunately. If you don't have a mask already, this will hopefully teach you how, just figured I'd make a little video to make it easier to share with my friends and family. To start, all you will need is some cotton fabric. An old cotton t-shirt works. I've seen people use socks, but like old curtains, anything, sheets, whatever you seem fit, and something that maybe you're gonna throw away, give to Goodwill, we might as well repurpose it. The only other thing you need is a sewing machine and some elastic. I know elastic right now is incredibly hard to find, so I'm also gonna be showing you some alternatives you can use, like rubber bands, hair ties, headbands, and then even if you have none of those at home, I can show you how to make them with ties, which is just longer strips of fabric that you can put in the back so you can still keep your face protected. If you do make them, please let me know. Tag me on Instagram. I will leave my @ in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into it. In case anyone was wondering, here's the elastic I've been using to make my mask. I got it on Amazon, so I will be linking that in the description below. To start, all we're gonna need are two 7 by 8 inch pieces of fabric. You're also gonna need two 7-inch strips of elastic. Okay, so our first step is we're just gonna stitch with the pretty sides of our fabric together, 1/4 inch seam allowance down the side of this fabric. Make sure your thread is in the back. Push this down to start. Make sure you back stitch as well, as you don't want this to come unthreaded. I don't use pins because I've heard it messes with the filtration of the masks and it saves you a lot of time, so that's really helpful. And then make sure you back stitch again. Okay, so we finished up the right side. Now we're just gonna flip it and do the same to the left, making sure to still keep that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So after you do that, we're gonna make sure we snip off all of our extra thread. Okay, once we got all of our threads off, we're gonna flip it inside out. So now we have all of our pretty sides showing. Okay, so basically our next step is we are gonna be inserting the elastic. So just at the top as we stitch it in, and then once we finish stitching it to the bottom, we're gonna insert it here as well. Okay, so what we're doing is just opening up this little pouch, put it in there, and you wanna make sure there's enough. So I'd say about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and then we're going to be sewing this on the 3/8 lines. And then right when you get to the end, it's very important to go back, grab your elastic. I like to flip it, insert that back in, and continue on 3/8 inch. So now that we're finished with that, we're just going to insert our elastic again and do this to the other side. And then again, just make sure you do not forget to insert this elastic for a second time. Okay, so what we have now is a square with elastics, but to finish up the mask, we have to insert our pleats. So what I do is take 2 under, and I put 1 on top, and kind of just pat it down and finger press it. You can iron it, but because I am lazy and feel that this works just as fine, I just finger press it the whole way down. You want one fold at about 1.5 to 2 inches down, the second fold at about 1 inch fold, and there we have some pleats. Okay, so now the next part is very important. We don't want these pleats to fall apart. So I always try and grab them, and you only need to hold one side. You can always redo the other. Hold it really tight down, and I just push it in here, and I'm gonna do just a smidge more than 3/8 of an inch just to make sure we don't go over our stitch. And then just make sure to back stitch, and you're all good. So we're gonna do the same thing, pick it up, again, a little bit more than 3/8, just so we make sure we don't overlap that stitch. And then again, just make sure you remember to back stitch. Okay, so as you can see, here's our completed mask along with some others that I've made using the same technique. As you can see, they're not perfect, but this is just the quickest and the easiest way I found to make masks. Now we can get into how to make a mask if you don't have elastic ties. Okay, so as you can see, I've stitched together our 2 pieces of fabric, and for our first alternative of making masks without elastic, we have 2 hair ties, and as you can see, they're broken, so we're not wasting anything in this, but if you need to use just like an old one, whatever works. Basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take these and cut them right in the middle where they're broken. And just as we did the elastic inserts before, we are gonna put them in at the top, stitch down to the bottom, and then insert this. So here's what our hair tie base looks like. So again, just do the same thing. Use your fingers under to help fold. And I'm gonna set this at 3/8 of an inch. And we're just gonna do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so here's our final product with the hair elastics. Okay, so another alternative to using elastic when making masks is using just normal rubber bands. So all we really need to do is just pick them up and do one cut through, and then we'll have 2 6-inch strips of rubber bands. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing we did last time. Just insert the rubber band and just stitch down the side. And then make sure to put that back in at the end. Okay, so we're just gonna do the same exact thing to the other side. And then just backstitch to finish. Okay, so now that we've attached the rubber bands on the side, we're just gonna do the same thing we've done with our other masks and create pleats and then bring it up to our machine. Here we're gonna place it at the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and continue to backstitch and then go all the way down. Okay, now we're just gonna refix the folds and do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so this is our finished product. It still works just as good as the other ones, but I would definitely recommend a hair tie over the rubber band as it's more comfortable around the ears. Okay, so for our last mask we're going to be making today, it requires no elastic. So all we need is our mask base, and then we're going to need 2 different strips of fabric that are 36 inches each by 1 inch. And if possible, if you have any yarn, this will be great too for creating more structure around the bands. Okay, so to start on this one, we're gonna do it a little bit differently. We're just gonna stitch down at the 1/4 of an inch just to close off these sides. Now we're just gonna be doing the same thing to the other side. Okay, so I did the same thing as you've done with the other mask where we finger press the pleats down, and we're gonna run that through the machine at 3/8 of an inch. then we're just gonna do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so now that we have our finished base, we are gonna start by taking our first strip of fabric, finding the middle of it, and then laying it down. And then we have our string, which is just as long as the strip. We're gonna find the middle of that, put it down. So here's the middle of our strip as well as the middle of the yarn. And the easiest way I found to do it is just to barely pick up the mask and put it over, and then fold this side and cover up those edges. Then once you get it over and covered really nicely, we're just gonna slide this in. And if your fabric's thick, it might be a little more difficult, but we're just gonna go right to the edge of this 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and put the needle down. Once you can get a few stitches in, it's really easy, but you wanna make sure you backstitch just so this doesn't come out. Once you do that, you can see it goes by super easy. You just fold your strip in half and stitch down. Once you get to the edge, we're gonna take this out, cut the string, and we're gonna put it back in and stitch across. Once you finish that, you just wanna cut the end of this off. That way we have a nice clean finish to the first side of our strip. Okay, so now that I flipped it over, I'm just gonna do the same exact thing where we pull as much fabric over as we can and continue stitching down the side. And also, if you keep the foot down, you can turn it 90 degrees and finish it off this way as well, if that's easier for you. Okay, now we're just lining up our fabric and our yarn and just getting ready to do the other side. Again, just pick up your edge of the mask, and I find it's easier to just slide it over. Pull up your fabric and just maneuver it under the foot. Okay, so as you can see, here's our finished product. These ties can just go right behind your ears at the back of your head. That way you can make sure the mask is secure around your face. So it takes a little bit of extra time, but it's really worth it, especially if you don't have any elastic hair ties or rubber bands available. I would highly recommend this alternative. And last but not least, here's a super awkward video of me attempting to demonstrate how to put this mask on. You're more than welcome to tie a bow, but here I just did a double knot because it was a lot easier from behind. But I hope this helps. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, please let me know if you end up making these. If you need any help, please leave a comment below. And again, thank you guys so much for helping me reach my goal of 10 subscribers. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week.